Tonight, NASCAR marches into Michigan, where everyone's revved up as Casey Mears, Sam Hornish Jr., and Ricky Carmichael stop by the Ultimate Friday Night House Party. Don't miss NASCAR Trackside tonight at 8 Eastern, only on Speed. Green flag laps continuing from Michigan International Speedway. Craig Gose still has a 3.5-second lead over Mikey Kyle, Steve Arpin, Patrick Sheltra, and Clay Rogers rounding out your top 5.
But when he built the majority of that 3.5-second lead, Phil, Mikey Kyle was hung behind Patrick Sheltra, Clayton Rogers. They were all mixing it up. While that was happening, Craig Gose just drove off. Since then, he was almost 4 seconds ahead. Since then, Mikey Kyle's been able to run laps faster than Gose and has closed that margin. So Craig might have had a lot of confidence about the start of his race and said, I'm driving away from these people, but things are changing now.
What else is going on with that 25, Jim?
Well, he's just complaining a bit free on exit. So I talked to Frank Kimball before this race. He said, I don't hear too many cars loose or free, but Mikey Kyle right now is free on exit, so he's searching the racetrack here. The nice wide Michigan giving him that cushion to find more speed as he exits off the fourth corner. Also talking about the other car that started up front that was top 3 in practice speeds, Patrick Sheltra, that green number 60. He's complaining about tight condition here. That's how he's losing ground to our race leader, Craig Gose.
Meanwhile, the 55 car, Steve Arpin, has been able to get by Patrick Sheltra to take over that 3rd position. Now teammates Mikey Kyle and Steve Arpin running 2nd and 3rd. Second, third. That's right.
In the garage after practice, I heard a lot of the drivers complaining about a tight situation on a racetrack that has so much, it seems like, turns on it. How do you fight that cause? I mean, that problem.
Well, you just try to move your line around. That's what most drivers love about Michigan. If you're a little bit tight down on the bottom, well, then you go in the middle. If it doesn't work there, you start to really run the high line. These guys don't have a whole lot of experience, just a handful of starts on tracks like this. So they're not as confident about running a couple of feet off that outside wall like you'll see in the Sprint Cup practice in the morning. Those guys will be right out next to the wall. These cats might have to start experimenting with that to see if they can find some better grip for their front ends up there. Generally speaking, if you're tight down on the bottom, you can go up top and it'll free you up. You can run a better lap time.
Good battle right here. Joey Coulter, we're riding along with Joey. Right in front of him, Nelson Piquet Jr. That's a battle for the 7th position.
Way up in front of him.
Another thing
that's car, Frank Kimmel.
A big factor here in Michigan is the draft. Did you see Coulter really pull up on Piquet Jr. down the straightaway? He just was running in that void of air behind Piquet and was able to close in on him.
Clay Rogers trying to get by Patrick Sheltra for the 4th spot on the racetrack. He goes to the low side. We'll see if he can make it stick through 1 and 2.
Taking the short way around and doing a good job, but it's hard to do.
Not gonna. He's gonna pull up in front of him. He didn't have much anyway.
Well, and we're seeing Patrick Sheltra run the higher line. Is that more likely because he's got a tight car and trying to find that even balance you were talking about, Michael?
Yeah, that 42 car of Rogers, it was just right when it went down on the bottom of the racetrack. He could really make time, but that's what some of these guys are unable to do, so they'll begin to work the middle of the track. I wouldn't be surprised eventually to see some of them right out next to that outside wall. On the turns, you know, obviously everybody comes up on the straightaway, but then want to diamond it down into the corners. Some of these cats in the Cup Series practice you'll see on Speed tomorrow, they run right next to the wall, all the way down the straightaway around the whole turn.
Justin Marks in the 32 got his first win earlier this year at Palm Beach, and he's in front of Chad McCumbee. That's the 32 of Marks and Chad McCumbee in the 1.
That's a cool place to get your first win. I won down at Palm Beach.
I think any place to get your first win would be probably a great place. And I'm sure a lot of people would say Michigan would be their favorite place to get their first win.
Our champion from last year, Justin Lofton, got his first win 2 years ago here in this race.
You know, Frank Kimmel, the only driver in the field that has won at this racetrack. He actually has been to victory lane twice, back in 1998 and again in 2005.
You know, we talk about Piquet Jr.'s learning curve. What about following Frank Kimmel for a little bit if you want to learn something? 9 championships. And you know, that car this year is a lot faster than it was last year. He's able to run toward the front. Had his best qualifying effort in a year at Pocono last week when he was 2nd, and had a solid start here today. So good start to the season for Kimmel. And he certainly knows how to operate on the dirt and the bull rings that are coming up on this schedule. Look at Piquet Jr. is going to make the move on the bottom of Kimmel.
Really kind of threaded the needle there between The slower lap car on the inside and Kimmel on the outside, and Nelson Piquet Jr. takes that spot away from Kimmel.
I have really been impressed this year with Nelson Piquet Jr. The first time we saw him was for their ARCA race here. I mean, ARCA race in the series, ARCA series back at Daytona. Came back with a 6th place finish in the Camping World Truck Series at Daytona that same week, and he had ran the race and got a top 10 finish earlier this year in an ARCA series race at Texas. Came back and ran really well last week in the Camping World Truck, and then jumps back over doing double duty again this weekend.
Seat time is what drivers are always talking about to get better, and that's what Nelson Piquet Jr. is doing. Craig Gose is continuing to put cars a lap down. Right now there's 26 cars on the lead lap. Craig Gose has a 4-second lead over Mikey Kyle at Michigan International Speedway. Tomorrow, one of the greatest racing events in the world returns to speed, the 24-hour of Le Mans. To win here, it takes more than skill. You must have strategy, endurance, and, well, a little luck. Don't miss the 24 hours of Le Mans. Live coverage begins tomorrow at 8:30 a.m. Eastern, only on Speed.
Saw Frank Kimmel go right back by Nelson Piquet Jr. We saw Nelson Piquet get by Frank. Frank just took it back from him.
Yeah, Joey Coulter drove up on the back of these two, and Frank made his way around Piquet. Now Coulter's trying to do the same down on the bottom of the racetrack. 18
laps are complete here at Michigan of the 100. You mentioned earlier the pit window, normally between 40 and 50. We're coming up on about halfway of a fuel run, and we've run green since the drop of the green flag, so we haven't had any slowdowns or cautions to affect that fuel performance right now. So guys might start thinking, okay, how far can we actually push it on this first run?
There's Grant Enfinger. He's worked his way into the top 10. He's going to drive by Nelson Piquet. You're going to try to get Joey Coulter too. You know, last week at Pocono, when we had 2 caution flags for a 200-mile race, one of those was because cars began running out of fuel, trying to stretch their fuel, and we had one little minor innocent spin. So a very, very clean race here. So don't, maybe these guys can't expect a bunch of caution laps.
Joey Coulter on the outside in that number 16. What's happening with that team, Wendy?
Well, Joey Coulter celebrated his 20th birthday on Tuesday, and right now he doesn't feel very good about his race car like he did on his birthday. The car is sliding around a lot on the front tires in 1 and 2, and especially off of 4. Harold Hawley, his crew chief, is trying to keep him motivated on their round of pit stops, like you said, between 40 and 50 laps for Joey Coulter, but not comfortable with the car. Jim?
And Nelson Piquet Jr., the number 6 car, has lost 3 positions in the last 4 laps. As soon as he rocketed past Frank Kimmel, his car developed a tight condition. The spotter for this team for Nelson Piquet is Mike Kalanoff, who's spotted for Nelson every time he's raced during the ARCA series. He's not happy with the handling right now. They're saying hang on to it, find a different line in the center of the corner, and Piquet is now trying to gather these 3 cars back in.
And that name, Mike Kalanoff, he spotted for Matt Kenseth when he won his championship in the Cup Series. So a lot of experience up there on the spotter stand.
And Phil, you've got to understand with Nelson Piquet Jr. every time that car changes, he said I passed Frank Kimmel, things were going fine. Next thing now I'm pushing. That stuff he's got to cycle through in his brain to try to understand how can that happen? Why did that happen? And what am I going to do about it? Can I move my line around? So he's just soaking up so much knowledge and learning so much. But there is indeed a ton to figure out when you go from the world he was racing into this one.
So Nelson Piquet running in the tire marks of the 44 of Frank Kimmel. Out in front of this field, it's Craig Gose.
Talk about coming into his own. Craig ran the full season for Eddie Sharp Racing last year, finished 10th in this race. Already this year, in the few races that they've had, he's had 4 top 4 finishes, 2 runner-ups, a 4th, and that big win, his first career win last week at Pocono.
Mikey Kyle, after leading the most laps a week ago in Pocono, ended up 2nd, and he was not happy about that. He knew he had the best car on the racetrack, but wasn't able to find victory lane.
Craig Gose and Mikey Kyle were the only 2 cats to lead last week in Pocono, and they're running 1-2 again, and seems like a theme here.
How about Steve Arpin? What a terrific season he's had. 2 wins already at Salem in Texas. Got an opportunity to run for Junior Motorsports in the Nationwide Series. Told me I think Daytona is going to be his next race with Junior Motorsports down there. So a bright future for Steve Arpin.
Yeah, I was watching you guys in Texas. I watched him crash. Had to go do an appearance for Napa. I came back and he's in victory lane. I said, how did that happen? This young kid knew how to persevere through some real challenges early in that race and got that win.
How about Clay Rogers in the 42 out of Troutman, North Carolina? Here's a driver who has tried his luck at different vehicles. He was in the Camping World Truck Series for a little while, has run the ARCA Racing Series.
I think he was our Pro Cup champion last year in 2009, wasn't he, Wendy?
Yes, he sure was. And Clay Rogers hopes to get to victory lane today and tomorrow in the Pro Cup Series. Nobody wanted to see this race get in. You know, they were calling for rain for the race time today. Fortunately, that rain passed through. Clay Rogers will be able to race tomorrow for Pro Cup at South Boston Speedway. But yesterday in practice for ARCA, he had clutch problems and he only got 9 laps of practice for Clay Rogers. This is a guy that doesn't race in ARCA very often. His first start of 2010 in the ARCA Series, he was top 10 in practice, qualified 4th, and Clay Rogers is fast here at Michigan.
Still in that 4th position, and just behind him in the 60 is Patrick Shelter, our points leader coming into this race. He's actually held the points lead for the last 2 races. He has a 30-point lead over Justin Marks when the green flag flew.
7 starts this year, 7 top 10 finishes for Patrick Shelter. That's how you win championships.
Yeah, that equals a point lead, doesn't it, generally?
Absolutely.
Because we saw the impressive numbers that Arpin had put up, but yet Shelter's leading the points.
And Patrick Shelter, another amazing thing. Patrick was involved in an incident a year ago at Daytona and then came back after recovering from a back injury to get his first win at Salem in 2009. And so a big year for the 60 driver, Patrick Shelter. Still out front, though, the 81 of Craig Gose. His lead now 4.6 seconds over Mikey Kyle. The young fans of stock car racing want to see who's going to make it to victory lane today. Well, we have a first-time winner. You got to stick around to find out. Welcome back to Brooklyn, Michigan, the Michigan International Speedway. It is the ARCA Michigan 200 for the ARCA Racing Series. Craig Gose still out in front, running second. Mikey Kyle.
Yeah, Grant Enfinger just was able to take over the 5th position from Patrick Shelter. Grant's really doing a nice job. Started back in the 17th position. Chad Hockenbraw.
Yeah, 27 laps, and we've got somebody on pit road already.
Got trouble.
We have a problem on the racetrack. That's the 99 of Josh Richards. The right front looks to have blown on that race car. We are still green, though. There is no yellow flag. As you see the 99 and now some debris on the racetrack. I'm sure that the ARCA Racing officials are going to see that and probably slow this field down.
Yeah, you see there's some debris right there on the racetrack, and that is in fact on the racetrack
right off turn 4. It's low in the groove, but see what happens. It blew a right front tire. It looks
There's
like
the caution flag, and it comes out for debris. That debris we talked about on the racetrack. So after 27 laps of green flag racing, the right front goes away on the 99 of Josh Richards. He gets up into the outside wall and does quite a bit of damage to the right side of that race car.
That's a team car to the 09 of Grant Enfinger, but tough break for Josh. Just saw him run a K&N Pro Series the East Division race last week at Martinsville, Virginia. So trying to get some versatility going on in his stock car career.
We saw the 58 of Chad Hockenbraw on the pit road just moments before the 99 of Josh Richards got into the wall. Potentially, I mean, it would have been too early for fuel. Maybe Chad Hockenbraw felt something and decided that it was time for him to come in and maybe change right side tires.
See way off in the distance the 99 of Josh Richards.
It's already up into the outside wall.
Yeah, that was way early, but it looked like classic right front tire failure, whether it cut something, ran over a piece of debris possibly, or maybe even this early in the race could have had a bit of a rub on a fender or something that finally took that tire out.
He was running in the 19th position. Right now 18 cars on the lead lap. The 17 of Chase Mattioli will get our Aaron's lucky dog.
Shedding debris coming off of the race car, and that's why we are under our first caution from Michigan International Speedway in the ARCA Racing Series.
That car stalled or stopped just at the entrance to pit road, so I wouldn't be surprised if the ARCA officials will leave pit road closed right now until they get that car off pit road.
I believe these guys will come to pit road. They're pretty much over halfway through a run, so they'll come in, get some tires, get some adjustments, and go at it again.
And we know they'll have to stop again because at best they can run about 50 laps.
We're going to step away quickly, but be back for those pit stops here on Speed.